Chris here. I'm back with another video. Today I'm going to talk about DC to AC inverters, what you can and can't power on these units. I have two DC AC inverters. One is a Power Bright 1100 watt power inverter, 2200 watt peak surge. Now I bought this from AutoZone. I actually had to buy it offline, and they didn't, had it shipped to a store. They didn't even know they carried these. It was like $99 for this. It seems to be a good little inverter. And I have a larger Cobra 2500 watt to 5000 watt inverter. Now both of these inverters are modified sine wave. Some appliances really don't like modified sine wave inverters. They generally will run them, but a lot of times they'll buzz and hum, things like that. Now, before you just run out, buy an inverter and a couple batteries, I do have solar. I have 4 100 watt solar panels that normally I have hooked up to these batteries during the summer. Right now, I live in Montana. There's a little bit of snow on the ground. It's getting cold. So I actually unhooked my batteries, brought them in the house. But there's a couple things you need to know. When you use an inverter, it's best to ground it. If you, at all possible, ground it to your ground rod. If you can't, and you absolutely have to use one of these inverters, what I did was I just took a plug, broke the prongs off, left the ground wire on, the ground plug, put a wire on it, and so I can hook it up, put a little end on it, so I can hook it up to my inverters. Now I don't have it hooked up because I'm just going to demonstrate a couple things. Also, you really need to, especially if you have a larger inverter like the one I have some fuses. And I have two 250 amp fuses. You can see that. Now the way I have my inverter hooked up, I start here, and I have the wire coming here to this other battery on the back, to the positive side, and that's where I have my positive for my inverter. My large Cobra inverter takes 4 wires. I have gotten away with using 2, but I prefer not to. And you go this side, where you have the negative, jumping back over here, and on the negative side over here on this battery is where I have my power for my inverter. Now my little inverter, I just have wired to the positive on the back battery, and then the negative on the other battery. So it's basically jumping the batteries. Okay. Normally I wouldn't do this test with an extension cord, but with the little apartment we're in, this little studio, there's really no room to set all this up. A lot of people have questions on, will my inverter run an air conditioner? That is a trick question, because I have had 1000 watt inverters, modified sine wave inverters, run an 8000 BTU air conditioner, but at the same time they would not run a 5000 BTU air conditioner of a different brand. Now we do run our air conditioner off our inverter, our large Cobra unit. The little one will not run our air conditioner. We have a 5000 BTU Frigidaire that we bought at Lowe's, and since it's winter it's not in the window. But yes, our large Cobra will run that. I usually run it on low. I have run it on high, but on low I have run our air conditioner for up to 6 hours without turning it off. And that's off these 2 Everstart batteries. These are basically the dual cycle batteries from Walmart. It says Deep Cycle Power Everstart, Deep Cycle Design. These are DC, 29 DC, 845 MCA. Now I understand these batteries are really disgusting. I brought them in. These have 845 minimum cranking amps. It's 122 amp hours at 1 amp. So I mean, if you want to spend the extra money and get something much better, that's up to you. These batteries cost less than $100 a piece, I believe, at Walmart. Well, 100, 109, something like that. Then you have the core charge. Now, what I'm going to show you on this is a lot of people worry about things like microwaves. We have a Hamilton Beach, and there's a couple waters in it. I mean, it's just cold. You can see that. 1,000 watt microwave. Now, what I'm going to do is I'm going to run it off of these inverters. Now, you're wondering, will our little 1,100 watt inverter run that microwave? Once again, that's a trick question, because the 1,100 watts, I'm going to plug it in, and you can tell, I mean, my extension cord is plugged in to my cord of my microwave right there. Give me a second, I'm trying to do this with one hand because this battery, this little camcorder just stinks. There we go. Now I had that plugged into a 1,100 watt inverter. This is one I bought from AutoZone. And you can tell the microwave clock comes on. Now I'm going to let you hear. This actually will power it if the batteries are charged. When I have it on my solar, this little one will power this. And you can tell. Yes, it powers it, but it's very low, has a very, very, very bad draw. Okay. Now I'm going to leave the water in there. This has a little display, tells you pretty much everything. I apologize about the camera. That's right there is watts, volts. Here's your watts. That shows when it's pulling. So let me turn this back on, just small. .7, 66.6 watts. Okay. And you can hear it is working, but it does hum, and it's really low as far as the light. It will work on the 1,100 watt Power Bright inverter from AutoZone. But if you're going to be using your microwave a lot, I suggest you go with a larger inverter like this one. This, like I said, this is a Cobra 2,500 watt to 5,000 watt, and this again is a modified sine wave inverter. If you can afford a pure sine wave, most people cannot because they are just sky high, then go with that. Now let me plug this in and show you what it does. Okay, you can see it's plugged into the front. I'm going to turn it on. Now, I also have 4-foot cables coming out of my inverter. They are 2-gauge welder's cable. It's like 600 something strand cable, something like that. I mean, it's generally what a lot of people use is the welder's cable. And you can tell, I mean, it's pretty thick. It goes, barely fits into the back of the inverter. Now let's, and you hear the inverter kicking on. And here you can see how much power is actually pulling. Now I apologize for the length of this video. I'm just trying to show you what you can and can't do with one of these inverters. If you have a small 700 watt microwave, a lot of people do, then the Power Bright inverter, I'm guessing, I don't have a 700 watt microwave, but since it's actually powering our 1,000 watt microwave, I believe the little Power Bright inverter would work for you. And you can see the microwave isn't making a whole lot of noise or anything like that. During our blackouts, which we have once in a blue moon here in Montana, when I was in Texas, we had power outages constantly. Microwave went off. Okay, that's kind of hot. It's not super hot. I didn't have it in there that long, but it's pretty toasty. So yes, a DC-AC inverter will power a microwave. We have 1,000 watt, and once again, it depends on your air conditioning unit whether the inverters will power it. And since the microwave's off, it's pulling absolutely nothing over here. Alright, let's shut this down. If I would have plugged it straight into the inverter, which is the better thing to do, it's not recommended you run extension cords off these inverters to run appliances. It probably would have worked a little bit better, but I mean, the large inverter did just fine. The little inverter worked on my 1,000 watt microwave. It's a Hamilton Beach. We bought it at Walmart a year and a half ago, I believe. And this one will work, but I suggest you go up with a little bit bigger one. When our lights are out, like I said, I do have solar that I normally have these hooked up to, these batteries. So I bring in 400 watts, and let me show you my panels. They're outside. Right there. And yeah, I know I should really have them covered right now because I don't have the batteries hooked up. There's a few things you need to understand about this. Never run your inverter without a fuse on it. A lot of people do. Generally, I have whatever inverter I'm working with grounded. And always make sure you hook up your batteries right. I have 12-volt batteries, which means they're like in series here, you know, positive to positive, negative to negative. If I had 6-volt batteries, that'd be a different story. I understand a lot of people like the 6-volt batteries because you get a longer run time as far as your power. But I find that these 12-volt batteries do just fine for me. They are extremely heavy. And like I said, when the power's out, usually I run my laptop. I have an adapter to run it off of my solar. You know, I have a cigarette lighter to where I hook up to my DC charger controller, and I can charge and run my laptop off of that. My girlfriend's computer, we usually run off this little one right here. We can run a light off that, the fan off that. Her computer over here, we can run off of it, and it doesn't seem to have any problems with that. I have run this large inverter off this little battery I have over here. This extra battery that came out of my van, and it's an automotive battery. Do not try to run your inverters off an automotive battery unless it's installed in your vehicle and it's running. You will draw your battery down quickly. These types of batteries are made to discharge slower. The one thing I did notice when I bought these from Walmart, that one of the batteries actually needed water. So always buy distilled water, even if you don't need it right then. Your batteries will discharge water, and you will have to fill them up. Check them no more or less, I'd say no less than once a month. And if you're using them a lot, I'd check them no less than, I don't know, every week, every 2 weeks. A lot of people are saying you can't power anything off of this that has a really hard draw. Now what I'm going to do, I'm going to set this down real quick, and I'm going to go grab something, and I will be right back. Okay, what I did was I grabbed my heater. Now you can see this is one you can get from Walmart. I talked about my other heater that's in the bathroom in one of my other videos. That actually works a little bit better than this. Now, I have an 1100 watt inverter here. This should not at all power this heater, and I don't believe it will. I believe it's going to trip. See that? This is a 1250 watt heater, and it is powering it. I don't know if you can see the coils. They're getting red. Midnight, he's right here. He's being a butt. It's getting warm. You can tell the heater is actually on. Now this is set for 1250, not 1500. I'm going to turn that off. You can hear the buzz. Now, it's not a good idea to really run anything with heating elements off your inverters. It can be done. Now, let's put that into the big one. Turn that on. Oh yeah, that's heating up quick. Now I'm not going to put this on 1500 watt. This is a 1250. Like I said, 1250 watts. And it's running it with no problem. Let me turn this back on. It's getting hot right there. This is what's pulling out the batteries. I only have 2 batteries. I'd say about 30-35% right now is being used. Yeah, this is getting warm. Alright. Now, yes, I will have to charge these batteries after I'm done with this, showing you this. There are other things you need to know about solar. You can run a coffee pot off your inverters. Right now I have coffee in my pot. I should have emptied it so I could show you, but I believe you can run a coffee pot off this one. I know you can run a coffee pot off this one. Now we also have a 12 volt coffee pot up here. Right there in the back, if you can see it behind Midnight's food. That we run off of our solar sometimes. It pulls 20 amps of power. So, you know, when it's brewing. But I just wanted you to understand that not everything people tell you about solar is true. Yes, you can run a heater, especially in an emergency, if you have a big enough, you know, DC-AC inverter. The one thing you're going to worry about running anything with a heating element or coil like that is your battery draw. You also have to have thick enough cables to carry it. Most of the cables that come with these little inverters, or even the big inverters, this one doesn't come with cables. You actually had to buy cables or make them yourself. I did make my own cables. This came with little bitty cables. You can see right here. I mean they're just tiny. But it seems to work all right. And I did have to buy my fuses and fuse holders. Like I say, I have 2 250 amp fuses. Eventually I plan on replacing these here, you know, the screw-in, fingertip screw-ins with some regular nuts. But now you see these will actually run certain things, including a heater. It will not run a heater for hours. I mean, it will just draw too much unless you have a massive battery bank, which I only have the 2 batteries. They seem to work just fine. I can run my microwave. I can run her computer and my laptop, you know, because usually my laptop I'm running off batteries or I have it plugged in. And when we moved over here, we moved from a different place. We were in a smaller apartment around the other side of this building, actually smaller than this. So my solar was closer. I plan on putting my solar right there on this side of that walkway. But they have this big tree over here that they had somebody trim up, and they were supposed to take it, and they cut it down to a certain point. It's like 35 feet up. So they're going to have that removed, and they're going to have to get in here. So I couldn't put my solar here and hook it up. But you have actually seen this with your own eyes, what this will run. Again, on the air conditioners, it depends on the power draw, how much it takes to kick on, how many amps, how many watts. If you just need something for your computer, a fan, some lights, this little power bright inverter right here, it's small. And I paid $99 for it, brand new, from AutoZone.com. And I had to order it and pick it up, have it shipped to my local AutoZone, which we have like 10 of them here. But like I say, when I went to pick it up, they have different power inverters in their store. They're a lot weaker than this for the same price. And the people at the store were even surprised that I could get this through AutoZone. This is something I had to order offline. Now my Cobra, we've had it for quite a while. This is one of the older CPI 2550 units. Takes 4 wires plus the ground. It's a 2500 watt to 5000 watt. We found this at a pawn shop, and we paid $78, I believe, for that, and it was used. Well, we've had it, I don't know, 3 years, 4 years, something like that. My little Power Bright I've had maybe 3 years. Now I don't leave these hooked up all the time unless it's hooked up to my solar out there. Then yeah, I leave them hooked up, because we actually do run our air conditioner off of this one. At the other place we were at, I had the wires coming through the window. I built a frame, so the window could stay open and the window still be covered. Had the wires coming through, and this was hooked up all the time. And our air conditioner was actually plugged into this alone. So we ran our air conditioner off of this one all the time when we needed air conditioning. So don't let people tell you you can't run certain things. You can. You just have to be wary about how much you use out of your batteries, how big your batteries are, how many amp hours. And people are always telling you, figure out how much time, how many hours, this and that. Just be real careful about hooking up stuff that you're not sure of. If you really need an emergency, like a microwave, if you have a 700 watt, I'm pretty sure this little Power Bright would handle that, because it's an 1100 watt, and usually they tell you get something 2 to 3 times higher than what it's rated for. But you saw yourself, we have a 1000 watt microwave. This little Power Bright ran it. It just lagged a great deal because it's trying to pull power, but it never tripped. Unfortunately, this video is running very long, and I think my camcorder shut off and started back up. If it did, I apologize. This thing just sucks. It stinks. I have a review of this up on, so you can see the review of this. I just changed the batteries not that long ago, and I'm having to change them again. There's one bar and the thing keeps trying to shut down. So this is my hopefully helping you understand inverters, power, and your battery setup. If you can, the more batteries, the better it is, but the thicker wire it has to be. Like I said, this is 2 gauge welder's wire. I made everything myself. I have a hammer crimper, so I crimped everything myself. I put on, the shrink wrap myself. But now you know what a DC-AC inverter, certain sizes, I only have the two sizes, unfortunately, will run. They will run a 1200 watt comfort zone heater from Walmart. Even my little inverter that says 1100 watts ran this heater because it's 1100 watt continuous 2200 watt peak surge. It's a PW1 100/12 12-volt inverter. Now you know. Hopefully this helps you a little bit. And remember, if you're hooking up 12 volt, you need to go positive to positive and negative to negative if you're going 12 volt batteries. And I always hook my inverter up negative on one battery and positive on the back or the other battery, and make sure you have a fuse. So this is it. I hope you enjoyed it. I hope it gave you a little information. And if you do want to run your inverters off of batteries all the time for like air conditioning, you definitely have to have solar or some way to charge your batteries. So, and make sure your little window unit, like I said, we have a Frigidaire 5000 BTU AC we bought from Lowe's. It runs it makes a humming noise because these are modified sine wave inverters, but as far as the AC, it works just fine. I hope this helps you out. I hope now you understand a little bit more about what these inverters can and can't run. You have seen it with your own eyes. Don't just listen to people online telling you it can't run this, it can't run that, or it can run this, it can run that. For it to run a 1250 watt heater, both of my inverters did that. That should say something. For it to run a 1000 watt microwave, that should tell you something. And I hope this helps you out. If you're interested in getting in a DC-AC inverter and some batteries for off-grid, or just having a backup power source, it's a good idea. Just make sure your batteries stay charged. If it's really cold outside, bring them in the house. Watch how you hook them up and have thick enough cables and have a fuse set up on them, and if possible, have it grounded. Anyway, this is getting really long, so I'll get a shot of the batteries I have one more time. They're Everstar from Walmart. Group size 29 DC, 845 MCAs. These are the Everstar. Basically, they're deep cycle power for marine, trolling, and RV applications. And I found these batteries aren't the best. They're really not. But they're reasonably priced, and they do tend to hold up alright. So, everybody have a good day. Here we are. I just hooked one of my batteries up to my charger. I said I'd charge my batteries after the last test, showing you could run your microwave heater. I would have shown my air conditioner, but you can see it's not in the window. My battery charger is an Atwood automatic battery charger. When it charges, it goes below the 0, which I don't know why they did that, but you can see it's real close. It didn't use a lot of power. Once again, here's my solar. When I bought my solar, I bought it in 2 sets. I bought 3 in one set and 1 in another set. The 1 came with a 15 amp charger controller. The 3 came with a 30 amp charger controller. There in the background, you can see my van. Eventually, let's see. There we go. Now, eventually, I'm going to end up putting my solar panels on top of the van and wiring my inverters up inside and having power in my van for camping. But as far as answering questions a lot of people have, what can you run? Depends on your inverter. It depends on your batteries. And it's really cold out there. Now, as far as our little portable wash machine, I have checked it. Our DCAC inverters, either one of them will actually run our portable wash machine. And as you can see, I have it hooked up. I was doing some wash just a second ago. I just haven't unhooked it yet. And in my last video, I showed that both inverters I have will actually run this comfort zone heater. I had it on low, 1250 watts. So if you want, you can check out that video. And there's one of my inverters over there. I already have it put up. The other one I have over there under my bed, and with all Midnight's toys over there. Midnight, of course, he's in the bathroom, messing with stuff as usual. But this will answer some of your questions as far as what can and can't an inverter with batteries run. And there's Midnight. He's just chilling. So I hope this answers some of your questions. And just don't go out and run out and buy an inverter and batteries and think you can run your whole house, because you can't. I mean, you would have to have a massive amount of solar panels, a massive amount of batteries in your battery bank. I just have the 2 batteries, and you can see what I could run off of it. The test I did running this heater and running the microwave, it did not draw a whole lot of power out of my batteries, but I do keep them fully topped off since they're not hooked up to my solar right now. Like I say, it's winter's coming on, it's been getting really cold, so I have them unhooked, and you know, I keep them stored over here, right there. So I hope that answers some questions for you. As far as the microwave, air conditioner, whatever you're wanting to run, it all depends on how much power it takes to actually kick it on and run it. And like I said, our little 5,000 BTU air conditioner, Frigidaire, we bought it from Lowe's. Our large inverter will run that on high or low. I have run it on low for up to 6 hours off my inverter and off my 2 batteries. And you know, then I usually turn it off, let it charge. I've never run the heater off my inverters. Well, I mean, a heater, anything with a heating core or element will draw massive amounts of power. And like I just showed you on my last video that I've had, your battery bank off of 2 batteries, depends on what batteries you have, and not automotive. That may look automotive, but that's a deep cycle marine battery. Well, basically it's a cheap deep cycle battery. I have 2 of those, and that little battery I have back there is automotive. I would not try to run this off of an automotive battery unless you have a good alternator and you have your vehicle running. It will just siphon the power out. But I hope this answers your questions, and everyone have a good day, and I hope you enjoy some of my other videos. Today we're going to talk a little bit about solar power. I've already talked about my inverters in one of my other videos. Now, if you're like me, you have or would like to get some solar panels. Now, a lot of people don't want to have to drill holes through their walls to run the cables through. Your charger controller is extremely important when you have solar. Now, I have 4 100 watt solar panels. I have an old plastic toolbox down here that's holding 2 dual cycle batteries that I bought from Walmart. Now, for my charger controller, I have one of these little bitty 12.5 inch plastic toolboxes that holds my charger controller. And I have a 12 volt plug installed, DC automotive cigarette lighter. And this charger controller's been out here 6 months maybe, if not longer. It's doing just fine outside. As you can see, I have it mounted on a piece of plywood at an angle on my frame underneath one of my solar panels. That protects it. And I have a little bit, just a little bit of plywood sticking out the bottom, help any runoff or wind blowing up in there. Now, if you want to get some solar, even 1 or 2 panels. Now, we rent, so of course we can't drill holes through the walls. So what you have to do is you have to make something that will hold your inverter to keep it out of the weather. And that's why I have this. I bought one of these plastic totes from Walmart. Has the flip down handles. Now the lid goes up over. Make sure it goes over the top. That way any rain or water goes down. And my inverter's installed in there. And I'll show you how I have it hooked up. Now I have my inverter hooked up here to this regular car battery, just so I can demonstrate it. I have 2 250 amp fuses on it. You can see right here. I apologize for the light. It's not real bright in here, but I do have a plug right here going to a little lamp. Now before I do this, I'm going to take the top off. Now what I did was I made this so I can install it on my solar without having to remove the top. I have 3/4 inch fittings, regular PVC pipe fittings, a male and a female. Right there. And I have a removable cap that just pulls out. And to reach my switch, I have just a piece of plastic coat hanger right here. Now that will actually go up in there, and I can turn my inverter off and on using that. Now you can see my inverter's on. Let's get a little bit more light in here. And you can see it's plugged in here. I have an outside weatherproof plug receptacle that I have installed on the side. That way, if it's raining, windy, stormy outside, I can keep the lid on my inverter, hook my inverter up to my batteries outside, and plug anything in the plug on the outside. I will never have to remove the top. Now there's a couple things you need to know if you're going to do this. One, your box needs to be big enough to hold your inverter, plus give it some air. And you can see I have my plug plugged into the inverter. My wire comes around the inside of the box. Right there. Right there to the plug box, receptacle box. Now what I did is I'm going to end up building a better box using the same basic box that I have here. But I'm going to have it to where I can remove my wires if I need to be, need to. On this box, what I basically did is I drilled holes through the box, and then I used general grade silicone. Okay, I did not use window and door frame silicone. I used right here the cheapest stuff Walmart had. Let's see if I can get that even the way you can see it. Unfortunately, I've been working on this and it's being a royal pain, so I'll just grab this one. All purpose. Now I use clear. You can use whatever color you want. 100% silicone, waterproof. Now the one I have here says window, door, attic, trim, flashing. That's important because if you just get regular window and door silicone, it will peel. Also, before you put your silicone through, your wires through and your silicone on, always clean the box where your silicone is going to go with 70% rubbing alcohol. Because if you don't, this plastic has a kind of oil finish on it, and your silicone will not hold. And you can see I have a small wire here that will hook up to a ground rod I have outside. And that's pretty much it. If you like a little bit better directions on this box, it's really not hard to do. I have some nuts and bolts that fit on the inverter and go all the way through the box to bolt it down. I do have the inverter raised a little bit. I put the bolt through the plastic, tightened it down with a nut, then I put my inverter on top of that nut, and then put another nut on top of it. And I did silicone the bottom to make sure it wouldn't leak. Now, my inverter has 4 wires here. A lot of them will only have 2 wires. And the tote I bought, I paid $10 for it at Walmart. And you can hear my inverter going off. This battery I have it hooked up to is not a very good battery. It just doesn't hold a charge. That's why it's just in the house. But just reach up in there, close the lid. Make sure your lid's always closed. And there goes my inverter. It's off. And don't forget to put your cap back on. But this is a way you can build a box for your inverter. So if you want solar and your batteries are outside and you need your inverter during an emergency, you can put it outside. You don't have to worry about rain or weather getting to it. I hope this gives you some ideas. Just remember, your box has to be big enough for airflow. It has to be where no water or wind can get down in there, And you have to have a plug. And of course, a battery. So, when I get my other box built, I'll go ahead and show you how I do that one. But hopefully, this gives you some ideas if you want to go solar, but you're worried about your inverter. Put it in a plastic tote. Make sure your cables go through, wires go through. Silicone it up real good so where you can open the lid if you have to. And just put a way on it that you can turn your inverter off and on. Now I can put this inverter outside and it could stay outside, but generally I keep it in the house. We only use it just for emergencies. But I hope this gives you an idea. If you like to go solar, start out with maybe one panel, but you have no way to hook up your inverter. Alright, thanks for watching.